So here's a quick example of how we might capture a record ID using Provar from a test case and then reuse that record ID in another test case. So given the example here, I'm creating a lead record through the API using a drag and drop from the org browser here, and I'm just giving it some fields for the required fields. You'll notice I get a result variable here called lead ID. This is by default. You can rename this variable. If you keep it like that, what will happen is if I run this in debug mode, it will create a lead record and it will give me the lead ID as a variable. Now you can set the scope for every variable in test step in Provar. If you do set the scope, it'll be available based on the scope that you set. But the most reliable way to pass these IDs to subsequent test cases is to set them as output parameters of a callable test. So I'll go to the top level of the test and make it callable. And then where you see test case output parameters, I'll add a new parameter here. You have to select from a test step result. So I'll click on where I'm creating the record, click the result object ID, and click OK. Now we have an output parameter called lead ID. So now if I want to reuse this test case in another test, just to confirm, I'll click on the previous run. We have a variable that's created here called lead ID from the previous run. So now let's go ahead and open up another test where I'm converting a lead to an account. So this is just a basic test case here, and here I have a screen step where I'm waiting for an object ID to open up a lead view screen. I can pass in this ID hard-coded, but as you know, that's not reliable, so instead I'm going to use the parameter. In order to do that, I need to drag my callable test case into this test here. One other thing that I'll do is I'll just make sure that the test case connection doesn't fail if it's already open. We'll see by dragging that callable in, we get an output parameter called lead ID, which we can use now in this step here. If we open up our content assist on a Windows, control space, command space on a Mac, and then I'll look for the variable lead ID. I'll save it, and I'll go ahead and run this in debug mode so we can see what it does. First, it's going to open up the Salesforce connection, and then it will use that callable test case to create the lead ID. Now if we click on this step here, we should see it open up a page to where it's navigating directly to that lead record by the ID that we passed in from the callable test case. There we go. So it opened up that lead record and it's going to do a basic assertion here. Once that's finished, it'll close down. Okay. So if we click on the step here, we can see the variable that came in. We'll see lead ID here. So it came in after the test was referenced, and we see the lead ID being referenced here, as well as in the callable test case. You'll see it in the after variables here, same lead ID. So again, the easiest way is just in your test case that you want to pass the variable from, set it to callable, set that variable as an output parameter, and then reuse it as follows in subsequent tests after you've called it.